Okay, well, hello again, Aerosmith Baptist Church. I'm here with Melissa, and we are at Blair Park, right by the dike, and a special place for you, your first ever walk here in a stroller with your mom, and then wedding pictures as well.
Yeah.
So that's why she picked this spot, so that's an awesome reason to pick a location like this. And we're gonna work through your 4 H's again, like we have with so many people. And the first H, history. I kind of already clued them in on how you got here.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But you've probably come and gone a bit, so
I
let us know.
Yeah. So I was born and raised here, grew up here. I moved away after school to Abbotsford to go to Columbia Bible College in Abbotsford. I loved Abbotsford.
Yeah.
So I spent a year there going to school, and then kind of moved out there more permanently, got an apartment with a roommate that I had met from school. And actually I met my husband while I was at Bible college, although we weren't dating yet at this point. We were just friends.
Yeah.
And then I took a bit of a U-turn and did something totally out of personality. I moved to Switzerland.
Oh, wow.
And that was a big thing for me. It only happened because a friend of mine was living there and set up a job and was like, they're flying you out for an interview. And I was like,
wow.
My passport hasn't even come in the mail yet. So, but it was amazing. Probably one of the best things I did at that stage in my life. So I got to nanny twin boys there while I was there for just for 6 months. But I moved back to Abbotsford and shortly after started dating Jonathan, who later became my husband. So we dated for 6 months, got engaged. 6 months later, we were married.
Yeah.
So it was, we had already been friends for 2 years. So it was kind of,
Get
the ball got rolling, it was like we were ready. So, a bit about church in that time. I always grew up believing in God.
Yeah.
My mom's family has a Catholic background, so there was certainly like God was mentioned, and I did go to church occasionally and things. So for me, even from a young age, I felt like it required more faith not to believe, like to believe that the earth was somehow created by accident. And so I've always had faith in that sense.
Yeah.
And then when I was about 15, I've been going to a couple of different youth groups. Actually at Aerosmith, when Lee Bain was youth pastor, and also at the Catholic Church. And so I had a lot of good friends that were exploring faith, and we were, we wanted answers. We wanted to read our Bibles. We wanted to study. So it was, that was part of my earlier faith journey. And we had a great church when we lived in Delta. We went to Bethany Baptist for about 10 years and different things. So we moved back to town in 2017.
Yeah.
And we just found ourselves back at Aerosmith last January, 2020.
Okay. Yeah.
So really not that long here before COVID hit.
Right.
It's been very virtual for us, but we felt connected even amongst all the challenges, and people have been very welcoming. So
good.
Kind of a story of how I came back to Port Alberni and even how I found my way back to Aerosmith.
Good.
So.
Well, and I can echo the idea that people have been very, very welcoming. I've experienced that too. Yeah. And did you know that I grew up in Abbotsford? That's where my original home was too.
I don't know if I knew that. Yeah.
Went to elementary school, high school there, and so I'm familiar with that area. When I saw your name Neufeld, it did make me wonder. You have a good Mennonite name.
Yes.
I had many friends with the name Neufeld in Abbotsford, so.
Yeah, and Jonathan's grandparents, John and Margaret, they lived in Abbotsford for many, many years.
Yeah.
They're now in a retirement home in Langley, but yeah.
Good. All right. Well, thank you for the first H, history. All right, so second H, we've changed our location slightly here. We get to sit down, but it's still cold. Didn't change temperature from there to here. And second H is heroes. So who are the people who you looked up to, who impacted you, who you would consider your heroes?
Yeah, so when I first heard you talk about heroes, when you were introducing this series, I knew this was going to be my hardest H. Not because I don't have heroes, but because I just feel like there's so many people that have influenced me in a positive way. So I don't know. I think rather than list necessarily names, it's like ordinary people kind of doing extraordinary things. People that are living out their faith and serving others, and people that have shown hospitality.
Yeah.
I feel like that's been passed down to me. I love having people over and hosting meals and cooking for my family. I have a little story of my grandma, and they didn't always have a lot of money, but she always welcomed everybody. And so she used to just count shoes before she made a meal, and she'd see how many shoes were there, and she'd make enough food for that many people. And so,
So there's obviously lots of extra people always there, or often
I
there?
think so. They had a lot of kids as well, but just that open door policy of everyone's always welcome.
Yeah.
And my grandpa taught me from a young age really serving others, like just from watching him, but also he would take me to retirement homes, and we would sing for the elderly.
Yeah.
And so that has been super valuable to me, like not super nervous having a microphone on or being in front of people, and just seeing the way that he's impacted people's lives in ordinary but extraordinary ways. And so, youth leaders, friends that have come alongside me in hard times, family that's just been there for me. Very blessed in
That's
that
awesome.
way. Yeah.
Yeah. I love it that you start as your two examples, your grandma and grandpa. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Good. Thanks. Okay, so next, of course, is the heartaches. So that's can be the emotional one or the revealing one anyway. So whatever you're comfortable sharing with us, Melissa.
Yeah. I've had some of the typical heartaches, losing loved ones, and my parents separated when I was 17. So that was very big, impactful in my life and challenging to navigate. But what stands out from all the others is when I was 24, Jonathan and I had been married for 2 years. We had a little toddler, David, running around. I was pregnant with my second, and about halfway through the pregnancy, the doctors discovered that our son had trisomy 13. And so we had never heard of that before, but what they were saying was his condition is not compatible with life. And so we had this baby growing, growing inside me, kicking, moving, and yeah, that was a hard season to walk through. I think being so young, just not having experienced something like that before, and the unknowns of it. We had a lot of pressures on us not to continue the pregnancy from a medical perspective. So it put a lot of our faith to the test. We had to decide, what do we believe? And so we chose to continue with the pregnancy. We didn't know, they had sort of said we could go into labor at any time. The baby could pass away at any time. So it was a lot of uncertainty. We just didn't know. But he was born at 37 weeks, and the doctors didn't think he would be born alive. They thought maybe he would be stillborn. So that in itself was challenging. But we had to make decisions like, would we resuscitate him? Would we hook him up to feeding tubes? Would we hook him up to oxygen? Like, we just didn't really know what we were going to be looking at when he was born. So, I just can't believe at that age having to make some of those choices and sitting down in those offices with doctors and cardiologists and different things. But praise God, he was really healthy when he was born. The pediatrician said if they hadn't done amniocentesis, they wouldn't have known there was something wrong. And so we didn't have to do feeding tubes. We didn't have to do oxygen. We didn't have to do some of those things. And we had him for 28 days.
28 days, wow.
And then we had to say goodbye. And so, that was a lot of hurts, a lot of struggle, a lot of pain. And into the years to come, just reliving that sort of every year around the time he was born until the day he passed away. It was kind of like, just a season of hurt. And so, those are some of the heartaches. I think so much good has come out of that, but it's still
Still hurts.
Definitely a hard thing to go through.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I feel for you on that. That is a tough one. I did go through that with 2 families in my church, in the previous church I was at, so walked with them through that. So I have an understanding to some degree how hard that. But you know what I also noticed was they were, in a very healthy way, able to then mourn that loss too, because it became real as well.
Yeah.
And I think there's a significant amount of benefit in that. And 28 days,
Yeah.
you got that. Yeah, that's got to be precious.
Yeah, we really looked at that as a gift.
Yeah.
And it was an answer to prayer. We had really prayed that we could meet him and hold him and love him.
Yeah.
And
Name?
Noah.
Noel. Okay.
Yeah, we chose Noah because it meant peace. So
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing with us. I'm sure there's going to be someone who can relate very closely that's going to watch this. So thank you. All right, so finishing on our final H, our positive note is hopes. What are some of the hopes you're holding on to in the midst of everything we're living through these days?
yeah, in some ways, I feel like I'm already living my hopes. From a young age, I wanted to be a mom, wanted to be a wife, and so we have our 6 little ones running around. And so in that sense, we're living it. From a faith perspective, I hope to be able to grow to a point where my life is kind of an effective ministry in itself, where people can see my faith and they can see God's love through my words, through my actions. I often feel, just not there, and I know it's a process. But yeah, I would love for people to be able to come to a faith just through, I'd love to answer their questions. I'd love to open those conversations. I'd love for them to just say, what's different about your life? And for my own kids, that they would know that faith for themselves.
Yeah.
That's sort of my hope.
That's good. Well,
Yeah.
you know what? I see it coming. I think, when you described your heroes further on or earlier on, I think you're going to become just like one of those heroes. So they've obviously been mentoring you well. So
Thank you.
good. That's an amazing hope. Well, thanks for sharing. This has been fun to get to know you, and you've not been into church too much longer than I have. So maybe as we move forward beyond COVID, we can both sort of, you and your family and me and my family, get to know the rest of the church family
Yeah.
at the same time too. So that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.